The Golden Gate Bridge shines just a little bit less bright today as we get news that the San Francisco 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks' main rival in this division, have traded Trey Lance to the Dallas Cowboys for a fourth-round pick. Trey Lance, of course, being the guy that the Niners a couple of years ago moved up in the draft, gave up 3 total first-round picks to go get him, to have him be their future, to be the man, the next guy to ascend into that great lore of Niner quarterbacks, Montana, Young, Lance. But it does not appear that that is going to be the case, as they have now moved on, accommodating Trey Lance's reported trade request that he made a few days ago when he learned that he was going to be the third-string quarterback on the team. And there's a few different things I think to unpack in this situation as it does relate to our Seahawks, even if just kind of indirectly. First and foremost, the division foe, the main rival in your division, your nemesis going on about 10 years now, gets a little bit weaker. That's always a good thing, and they sort of step in it as far as this decision goes. This is not going to bode well on the view of Shannon nor the front office in this situation, as it did not look like they had a real clear-cut plan. This is not as much about the failure of Trey Lance to me. This is much about the Niners' failure of a process for how they wanted to develop this kid if he was going to be their guy. And indeed, maybe he wasn't everybody's guy in that front office when we look back on this in retrospect. This also harms the Niners on the forefront, of course, with all of the draft picks that they lost. Miami being the main team that, of course, benefits from this because they've traded up for it. And if you look at the players that the Dolphins were able to now pull back into them from those picks, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb, which of course they made trades with those picks to get those guys in. Yes, I know there's some screaming out there saying, well, they had to give up a little bit more than that. Yes, they had to throw some kicker picks in. The point is that the Dolphins wouldn't have been able to add those guys onto their team if they didn't have those 3 first-round picks that the Niners had given them up for this trade. And certainly the Niners would be much stronger for it, considering if they'd kept it, considering they've got really nothing out of Trey Lance. Kyle Shannon is a really good coach in this league. I think that he does an excellent job at what he does, and he's one of the more smarter offensive minds you'll find. But he does seem to have a little bit of an Achilles heel when it comes to the quarterback position, and especially finding these young guys that he can develop along. He's had a Kirk Cousins in his time at Washington, but there's been a lot of others through there that it hasn't exactly come forward on. And now the Niners are going to have to hope and pray that Brock, Noodle Arm Purdy, and Sam inconsistent, to put it kindly, Darnold are going to be able to now carry the day for them. And not only on this, where you've had that Niners team have to go to 3 and 4 deep in their quarterback room before, can't do that this year anymore. You got 1, you got 2. You got a guy that is going to be your main starter who's played a handful of games, 6 months removed from having Tommy John surgery. And maybe Brock Purdy is just that good. Maybe he's the next quarterback to ascend to that lore of Niner quarterbacks, and it will be Brock Montana and not Brock Purdy ever forward. But he's got a lot to still left to prove, and there is no doubting, even Niner fans would admit this, that there are arm strength limitations when it comes to Brock Purdy. Maybe he's just so smart. Maybe he can throw with just such great anticipation and touch. But the man does not have the strongest of arms to make all of the NFL throws, so that does, in its general nature, restrict you a little bit offensively speaking, and hopefully our Seattle Seahawks can benefit from that. Darnold, I guess, has a little bit of the old first-round pedigree behind him, but as I said before, very inconsistent, a guy that'll give you a wow throw here, and then he'll throw it directly right to the team on the very next play, and you say, what were you thinking? What were you looking at? This upcoming season, the Seattle Seahawks team is going to be going and looking at this division, and it's going to be unlike it's looked in 7, 8, 9 years, who knows how long, where we have perennially been one of the stronger divisions in all of football. But this upcoming season, you now have 2 teams in the division that are firmly in the mode of tanking. The Rams, with all of the rookies they're going to start, with all of the contracts that they've shed as they try to turn this thing over. And then we just saw this last week with the Cardinals making 3 trades of players who still have some value, weakening a team further, weakening a team that was already looking like a team that was heading into tank mode. And now we've got the Niners here looking a little weaker at a quarterback position. One of those positions, one of those few positions on a team that's really strong that could end up undoing the whole thing if it fails on them. And that looks like maybe more of a possibility now with Lance gone. Not to say Lance was great, but he was the X-factor player for them at the quarterback position, where if he was able to develop, if he was able to kick into that talent, and this was a guy that needed his time to develop coming out. It wasn't a surprise he wasn't catching fire from the start. You give him that time, and maybe halfway in the season, the light bulb goes on, this kid kicks forward, and you've got trouble on your hands. No more is that now a possibility. And so with those two other teams already taking this division, and now with the Niners looking like that quarterback room's looking a little bit more shaky, the possibility of us going and overtaking this division now this season becomes even a little bit more brighter of a possibility. Whatever you may think about this trade, if you're a Niner fan or not, and say, well, we had to do this was what was for the best, all that may be true, but the bottom line is this. After this trade, the 49ers are not better now. They're not more improved for the 2023 season. They are instead weaker. How much further, how bad it is, or is it bad at all, we'll see. But indeed, that is the case. Also, a nice little note on top of this, we still have Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year, reigning Defensive Player of the Year, still not at camp, hasn't practiced one day, holding out all the way through, wants his new deal, no end in sight, currently threatening to miss the first game of the season for the Niners. Possibilities open up maybe even wider for our Seattle Seahawks team in an upcoming season where we can really, really take a step forward. I want to take them on at full strength, but if they want to shoot themselves in the foot, I'm not going to say no to that either. My name is Brandon Kay, and this is the Hawks Nest. Please hit the like button, please subscribe, but beyond all that, don't you ever forget, go Hawks.
I mean, I always feel like I let Trey down. I mean, I wanted him to come here. I believe in Trey. I believed in him before we took him, and I'm responsible for that. I didn't want to throw him into the heat of battle right away, but I thought he needed to play. So we tried to figure out every way to do that. I mean, if I can look back in hindsight, he broke that finger on a helmet on that fourth preseason game versus the Raiders. I wish I didn't put him in a play that had him break his finger, because I think that really hurt him in his first year. And not only did it hurt him not getting able to mix in much, but it hurt him in the practice time because he had to adjust how he threw and things like that, which I think set him back for his second year. When we went into the second year, we gave him every chance to do it. We were going to make an offense that, to me, gave him the best chance to be successful at that time, which we did do. And when you do that, you hope a guy can stay healthy so he can stay out there long enough, but that didn't last long. It was the first game, and after that, I mean, I always felt for him, and we continue to work with him, but sometimes things just don't work out.